Hi, my name is Sarah Turner and I work for the Central Arkansas Library System, and today I wanted to show you how to do a fluid art painting using acrylics and a medium. So let's get started. So some of the materials we're going to need today to make our painting is you're going to need some acrylic paint. I usually use whatever I get at Walmart. This is good old Apple Barrel. I've also used Hobby Lobby's Anita, as well as Folk Art brand, which is also, I think, a Hobby Lobby. So really, any acrylic paint will work just fine. And then we're also going to need a medium. So I like to use Mod Podge, and I like the gloss kind. It leaves your painting really shiny. But there is another option that I recommend, and that is using Floetrol. So I get this at Home Depot or really any hardware store, and it's really nice because it leaves really big cells and bubbles in your artwork that reveal the paint underneath. It looks really neat when it's done, but the downside is it leaves your painting looking very matte. That's totally fine if you want to go back and add a varnish of some kind, or even the Mod Podge as a top to make it shiny. So I'll show you a demonstration of here's a painting that I've done, and this is with Floetrol. You can see these really big, these bubbles, and it's all in here too. You can kind of see the gold in it. The Floetrol creates these big cells, and that's why I like to use it, because it can create some really fun effects. The Mod Podge doesn't do as much of this effect. It can, but you usually have to add something else to it. Some people add any kind of silicone additive, any kind of oil, but I prefer not to do that because it can leave your painting looking like feeling greasy, and I'm just not a fan of it. I prefer to use Floetrol if I want to get these effects. So, alright, so next you're going to need some cups, preferably cups that are, you have some small cups and a big cup. So I'm using what I got at home. I have these little 9-ounce cups, and I'm going to mix each color of paint in these cups. So it's going to be acrylic and the medium mixed together. So this will be like teal. I'll mix the other one, white, and then another light blue, and then a gold. So you'll end up with 4 cups of color. It's important that you do them individually. So another item you might need is, I use popsicle sticks. So I have some here. I'll use it to stir my paint. Another thing I recommend is gloves, because this is a very messy project. You will actually pick up the wet painting and tilt it around. So it won't be the end of the world if you happen to get, paint all over your hands. It washes off just fine. But for easier cleanup, and you don't want to mess up your nails, I don't know, definitely use gloves. Now, another thing you might want to do is put something down on the table. I usually use a plastic table cover, or a tray with like parchment paper or tin foil, anything that'll cover your tray and keep it the paint contained. That'll work. The thing is, you're going to want to leave this painting sit for at least a day. Sometimes I'll leave them sit for 2 days because it does need that time. It's a lot of wet paint on this canvas, so it needs to sit. But yeah, another thing you need is tacks. You want to put the tacks on the back of the painting at each of the 4 corners. This just props your painting up. Because when you pour the paint on, it's going to flow over the sides and down. you want it to sit above it, because otherwise the extra paint is just going to pool all the way around the sides and underneath it, and it'll make drying take way longer. You'll also have extra like dried acrylic paint around the sides that you'll probably have to like cut away. So it's just easier if you can find a way to prop it up. Now, having said that, I can't find my tacks. So I'm actually going to use a couple cups just to prop it up on the table. You just want it to sit above the table and have it be flat. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but also something you wouldn't mind getting acrylic paint on. All right, so our next part, I'm going to show you how to mix the acrylic and the medium together to get the right consistency. Okay, to get started with mixing your paints, I'm going to use Floetrol today, and I'm just going to pour just a little bit in, not a whole lot. I want to explain that I don't usually work or teach this in measurements. We are looking for a consistency. We want to see how it flows off of your popsicle stick. The reason for this is because as long as you're looking for the right consistency, it doesn't matter what paint or medium or brand you use, it should turn out all right. But if I were to tell you do 2 to 1, something like that, but then you use different paints or a different medium than I do, then there's no guarantee it's going to come out right. But as long as we're looking for the right consistency, it'll turn out just fine. So I'm going to demonstrate that real quick. Alright, so this is Tuscan Teal from Apple Barrel. Now I have my cup of Floetrol, and I'm just going to give it a good squeeze. There we go. There's some color. And I'm going to use my popsicle stick to stir it. Stir it. Alright, okay, so now let's test it. We want to scoop some up and then tilt it at an angle. So I've got some, and it's running off the stick. It's doing a little bit of drippy. It's close, but not quite there. So that's just fine. I'm going to add a little bit more color. Let's see. I actually think this is, now I put too much color. And that's okay. Part of this is you just kind of add each one and see where you're at. With this one, I thought I added almost too much Floetrol, but actually, now that I've mixed it, I'm kind of like, yeah, I could probably use a little bit more Floetrol. You don't want it to be plopping off the stick. That means you have too much paint. You need to add medium. If it is dripping off the stick, that means you need to add more paint. So it's like if it's too thick, add medium. If it's too thin, add paint. So I'm going to add a little bit more. Alright, let's see. Alright, there we go. Okay, so what we're looking for is you want the paint to drip off your popsicle stick at an angle, go down, and then you see a straight line into the cup. That is what we're looking for. You see that long line? That is what we're looking for. So whenever you're mixing your colors, you'll want to turn the stick up into, you don't want to go like this because then you're not going to see. And if you hold it sideways, it'll probably clump. You really need it to turn it up into an angle. And to see if you have that. See, mine's kind of, there we go. Alright, so that is the consistency that you're looking for. You want it to be, your aim is just thinner paint. You want it to be able to pour it and it'll flow off the canvas. If you experiment with this and you pour it on your canvas and it doesn't go very far, you need more medium. So, and usually having too much medium, probably it will not hurt it as much. It will just slide further across your canvas. But you'll definitely notice if you have too much paint as opposed to medium. If you pour it on there, and it doesn't go very far. So, all right. So to spare y'all, I'm not going to mix each of these for you because that's time consuming. But we're going to cut over to when I'm going to pour, mix everything together and pour it on the canvas. All right. So I'm going to walk you through the process of actually doing the pour. We have our 4 colors. Right here. And we are going to pour them one by one into this cup. So I usually say start from lightest and then go to the darkest. So I'm going to start with my base. So you can pour it right in the middle or you can do it down the side. I'm going to go ahead and do it down the side so you can kind of see how it will stack. So trying to situate so y'all can see me. All right. I really want my gold in there really to mingle with the blues, so I'm going to go ahead and do that one next. All right, now I'm going to do the darkest blue. All right, so now I'm just going to restack them. So I'm going to do white again. Then back to white. Oftentimes I just pour this right straight down the middle. That totally works too. But it's rather fun to see the colors stacking in this way. You can really tell that gold is sitting on top. It was also a different brand than the other one. So you're also going to have paints that will sit differently, or it may just be a lighter, not as thick paint. And that will sink to the bottom. The lighter ones go right to the top. So my white is much thicker. But it's okay because we're going to pour it out and it's going to look just fine. It's all part of the fun. It's all very random. It's very abstract. I think I just got a little bit of gold paint there. Oops. Not a problem. So for the fun part, there are a couple ways that you can do this. I usually like to just pour it. I mean, just pour. I usually start in a circle in the middle and make my way out. And I usually really like the results of that. However, a lot of people really like the look of tumping the cup over. So I'm going to go ahead and do that because it's fun. So what you're going to do is I'm just taking the canvas and I'm literally going to set it right in the middle, like right on top of the cup. You're going to put your hand over the cup, like, because my hand's on the canvas, and then I am going to flip this whole thing over and then lift the cup up. Okay, so we're going to see how this goes. Woo! Okay, so some got out in me trying to put it on the cups, but here we go. We can move it and then we can lift. Woo! All right, we got some cool stuff going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt it because you want it to move around. You want it to cover all edges. I'm going to go down, go this way. You can see me. All right. Now, that's a very fun ocean looking project. See if you can see that. So, what I usually do is I pick up some of the paint that's fallen off the sides. I mean, literally just dip your hands in it, go around the edges to make sure that it continues to flow off the sides. Make sure it's all covered. You can even run kind of your hand around the bottom if you want. Let's see if you will. So that was my tutorial on doing fluid art. You could also get the same effect if you just wanted to pour it out and you didn't want to do the crazy flip cup kind of thing. It works just fine that way too. I usually just pour it out because I like the designs I get. But all right, well, thank you for watching this long tutorial. Stay safe out there. Y'all have fun.